Here is a secret that music history books tend to bury under all their talk of genius and inspiration. For about 1,000 years, the single greatest influence on how classical music sounded was not a composer's mood or a patron's taste or even talent. It was drywall. Well, stone, technically, but you get the idea. Composers were not just writing for singers and instruments, they were writing for a room. And the room had opinions, and the room's opinions were louder than the composer's. Let's start with the science, because it's genuinely delightful. When a sound is made in a large stone building, it doesn't just play once and politely leave. It bounces off the walls, the floor, the vaulted ceiling, a pillar, another pillar, a bored-looking gargoyle, and eventually your ear, arriving from several directions at slightly different times. Our brains blend all these arrivals into one smeared impression of the original sound, and the time it takes for that sound to fade to inaudibility is called the reverberation time, or RT60 among people who enjoy ruining dinner parties. A living room has an RT60 of under half a second. A recording studio is practically dead silent by comparison, engineered to have almost none. A giant Gothic cathedral, full of hard stone surfaces and absolutely no soft furnishings to absorb anything, can have an RT60 of 5, 6, even 8 seconds. Clap once in Notre Dame, and you'll still be hearing the ghost of that clap while you order lunch. This mattered enormously to the poor monks tasked with actually singing in these buildings. Try singing a fast, busy melody with lots of quick notes in a room with an 8-second echo, and what the congregation hears is not music, it's soup. Every note you sing arrives on top of the ghost of the note before it, and the one before that, until the whole thing collapses into a warm, directionless hum. So what did medieval composers do? They did the only sane thing. They wrote painfully slow music. Gregorian chant moves at the pace of a Sunday, with nowhere to be. Not because monks lacked ambition, but because the building itself vetoed anything faster. Give the reverberation time to clear before the next note arrives, and suddenly the cathedral stops sounding muddy and starts sounding like heaven's own reverb pedal, which, let's be honest, is a pretty good problem to accidentally solve.
By the time composers like Patron were working at Notre Dame in the 12th century, adding extra vocal lines to the chant, they were essentially collaborating with the architecture as a silent co-writer. Long, sustained notes, gentle, overlapping harmonies, almost no rhythmic complexity. This was not a stylistic choice so much as a peace treaty with a building that would otherwise turn every piece into an unintelligible wash of sound. Then the Renaissance rolled around. Congregations got bigger, choirs got bigger, and composers like Palestrina started writing dense, glorious polyphony with multiple melodic lines weaving together. This was gorgeous, except for one small hitch. Church officials at the Council of Trent in the 1560s got extremely cranky that nobody could understand the actual words being sung anymore. Since 4 or 5 vocal lines tangled together in a reverberant stone chamber turns Kyrie eleison into an ambient wall of vowels.
Legend has it, Palestrina saved polyphonic music from being banned outright by writing his Missa Papae Marcelli as proof that you could have rich harmony and still keep the words vaguely audible, essentially becoming history's first sound engineer hired to fix a mix. Meanwhile, in Venice, the Basilica of San Marco was busy warping music in an entirely different direction because its architects had, centuries earlier, built 2 facing choir lofts on opposite sides of the church, apparently without asking anyone whether a composer might one day exploit this. Giovanni Gabrieli absolutely did. He started writing music for 2, sometimes 3 separated choirs and instrumental groups, tossing musical phrases back and forth across the building like a magnificent game of stereo ping pong, centuries before stereo speakers existed. The style even got a name, cori spezzati, broken choirs, and it only worked because the building's own geography turned it into an instrument.
This is where the classical era, with its Mozarts and Haydns, really cashes in on architectural progress.
Palaces and the new public concert halls were built with far less stone and far more wood paneling, tapestry, and audience bodies soaking up excess sound, which meant reverberation times dropped dramatically. Suddenly, composers could write fast scales, quick ornamental trills, and rapid-fire passages that would have turned into acoustic pea soup in a cathedral, but sounded crisp, clean, and dazzling in a dry salon. Mozart's fingers-flying keyboard writing isn't just a display of talent, it's a display of what becomes physically possible once you take the reverb away. Then, delightfully, the Romantic era swings the pendulum right back toward the enormous and echoey, except now by choice rather than necessity. Anton Bruckner, who spent his early career as an organist at the vast, reverberant St. Florian Monastery, wrote symphonies that behave suspiciously like cathedral acoustics translated into orchestral form. Massive blocks of sound, long pauses, harmonies that need time to breathe before the next chord dares to arrive, as though he never left the building. Verdi's Requiem, meanwhile, premiered in the Church of San Marco in Milan, a work so thunderously loud in places that it was reportedly nicknamed an opera in ecclesiastical robes, which is a phrase that should honestly be tattooed on a t-shirt somewhere. Even today, when a piece premieres in a modern concert hall engineered with adjustable acoustic panels and painstakingly modeled reverberation curves, we are still living inside the same joke that started 1,000 years ago in a stone room in France. The building decides what music is possible, and the composer simply figures out the cleverest way to make peace with it. Musical genius, it turns out, has always had a quiet, immovable, extremely opinionated collaborator, and that collaborator's name is architecture, and it never once received a byline.